Afternoon. Welcome back to Apocalypse and Genesis. The inspiration for today's talk was the novelist David Gemmell, a descendant of the people of Anu, the people of Atlantis and heaven, who brought their culture to Ireland in the time of Jeremiah. His family had been gatekeepers, tenders of the stone circles and portals, and he tried to tell you what's coming on the other side of the Apocalypse Genesis event. Since people don't purposely go to works of fiction for their truth, you may not have heard of him. You probably prefer your scripture's favorite YouTube channel or a newspaper for your more direct answers to the questions of life, though they offer roughly the same blend of verities veiled in a huge mess. If truth collects dust on a bookshelf, it's because we refuse to do the work, what Thomas Jefferson called digging for diamonds in a dunghill. His summary of New Testament wisdom comes to 84 pages, a daily devotional to ponder and sleep on, much as someone else might use the meditations of Marcus Aurelius or Plato's Socratic dialogues. Since my obsession is the apocalypse, that is Genesis, Gemmell's my guy. The Cataclysm was backstory to all of his novels that were any good. I didn't realize the multiple meanings of the Bible's animals, for example, until I was rereading Wolf in Shadow and came across 1 Samuel 17:34. And David said unto Saul, Thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear and took a lamb out of the flock. I have a statue of David and Goliath and have long viewed David as a cipher for Orion rising and Goliath as the fall of Aquarius or Leo. What now struck me about the passage was its astronomical import. Orion was both a shepherd and a warrior, Aries a ram to sacrifice, the bear a creature of the north, and the lion a creature of the south. So to me, Samuel had just laid out our time of pole shift. Orion crosses the sky one winter, just when Jupiter at the first of Aries finds himself a victim of heaven as Ursa Major and Leo pounce near the first sign of spring. This video, Nine of Diamonds, was suggesting we treat Sirius as the blue star and Betelgeuse as the red star, and LXDR1F7 was suggesting we look at the role of Lyra's Vega in the pole shift proceedings. So here are all three pictured with our current pole star, Polaris, just before the world goes upside down and backwards. And if the stars of creation light up at the same time, we should go back and study the galactic wave theory of Dr. Paul LaViolette. The only way something 8.6 light years away and 643 light years away would brighten together is if the energy illuminating them and it hitting us had the same source arriving at the speed of light. As to the reversal, I just don't see how a rotating sphere floating through space can view any single object as having traded sides on the horizon without also changing sides on the equator. So I'm suggesting those two apparent spins happen at the same time. If a third of the stars of heaven reach the ground with a dragon, a la Revelation 12, well, then the whole sky is about to go crazy, and both of the mentioned suggestions absolutely work. Stephanie at Revelation Signs and Wonders says also keep your eye on Comet 2017 K2 because that's an object we're soon to see again as it returns from the underworld. By the way, if we're waiting for Sirius and Betelgeuse to line up from our standpoint, that won't happen until early June. And both the Ohuelans and the Syrians expected some sort of autumn equinox event. Someone chided me the other day saying we still have 500 years until the age of Aquarius. Well, I think whoever laid out the zodiac left a big fudge factor at the end of Pisces for multiple things to go wrong. So we don't know how long our season of discontent will last. The Egyptians depicted two huge events on the Narmer palette. One happened in Taurus, roughly 4000 BC, and one in Leo, roughly 11,000 BC. But according to Diodorus Siculus, the priests also could remember a great day of Elios happening 23,000 years before Alexander the Great. The Ohuelans depicted the other big one in Scorpio around 17,000 BC, which was an event recalled by the Paleolithic folks of Mauritania. And their memory of the cusp of Pisces Aquarius was probably closer to 24,000 BC. So the idea that cataclysm recurs and is due again any minute should not be foreign to us, except that the vampires in charge don't want you to take your money out of the bank or stock market before they do. At this writing, global stocks and bonds are down farther than the US national debt in the $35 trillion plus order of magnitude. US treasuries have posted their worst annual loss ever. If you look around, the glitterati are abandoning Hollywood as quickly as CEOs are retiring. And the billionaires know they haven't long to scurry off into their bunkers, leaving us plebs to fight over the scraps of civilization. If the powers that be are threatening more plagues and world war, well, it's sort of understandable. The reigning mayhem will obscure a multitude of sins. I guess the question is, when do they plan to open the underground and the gulag for those few essential to the future, and the latter for us expendables? One of the hidden messages of Daniel's Beasts of Empire is that the age of Pisces has set. All the beasts or constellations he mentions are northern hemisphere. If you don't agree that he knew the water jaguar, well, then look again at the den of lions. Lynx is northern hemisphere. Leo Minor is northern hemisphere. Leo is northern hemisphere. So it's not a stretch to think the jaguar is northern hemisphere. And if you think he meant camelopardalis as the leopard, well, then that too is northern hemisphere. But what's going on with the planets shifting along the ecliptic at the new first of Aries is that they have flown south to Aquarius. Like the center of gravity of the universe is now tugging the ice poles toward the equator, and things are about to change. I don't know if it's related, but look closely at Daniel 4 through 7 and check out who is speaking and the exact meaning of their names. It might be just me, but I detect some sort of power struggle going on between Nabu and Belit, the naughty one, has been winning since at least 600 BC. My impression from the revelation of John is that the coming reign of Antichrist will be the logical conclusion to this world's Babylonian corruption, more centralization of wealth at everyone else's expense. There's something poetic about the end of our age being marked by Whitney Webb's magnum opus, One Nation Under Blackmail, and Hollywood's recent release of Babylon. If the Bible's Mystery Babylon is about to go through God's wash and dry cycle of history, I can't say I blame him. Here's another view of this time, courtesy of the Moche Indians, a tribe that preceded the Inca of Peru. The guy with the staff and shield is Orion. He's wearing symbols with widely different meanings. An owl with lion's ears, meaning our time of reversal between Aquarius and Leo. Great horns of a bull or ram, meaning the sacrifices of Taurus and Aries. I see a triangle with an oval. So again, that's our new pillar of the universe between first of Aries and first of Virgo. It's a time demarcating the new age, and we've reached it. A time of the Christ for ancient cultures around the world. Any of the wise could tell you. But you were busy listening to murderous priests selling their repackaging of the never-ending story, promising you heaven for a tenth of your property. The reason Set could build such a perfect coffin for Osiris was that they were the same size. Get out your measuring tape for one Virgo to one Aries, and you can answer Job 38:4. The answer to the riddle is that we were right here, corsi ad corsi. There is no new thing under the sun, Ecclesiastes 1:9. Did you ever hear of St. Augustine's retractations? He says, what is now called the Christian religion existed even among the ancients and was not lacking from the beginning of the human race until, quote, Christ came in the flesh, unquote. From that time, true religion, which already existed, began to be called Christian. The heart of wisdom, the heart of heaven is now when Orion flies to the other side of the equator. Dad and Mom, Huitzilopochtli and Coyolxauhqui, the Pietà, Eurogamia, Adam and Eve, Nergal and Ereshkigal, Marduk and Tiamat, Moses and Zipporah, a time for baptism and communion, sacred marriage. Remember how your Bible says the church is supposed to fly out of here for the worst of the Great Tribulation? Well, get ready. The other day, a guy purporting to be a time traveler from 2671 had a strange message. The world will end soon. A very hostile alien species is coming to take back the earth. We will not win. Another alien whose world was destroyed by the hostiles will save some of us. On March 23rd, 2023, about 8,000 people will be taken to another habitable planet. I would only question the language he uses for his story. It's sort of hard to believe the ones coming could be so much worse than the ones running this homeless producing, child abusing concentration camp. And if you always meet new people with suspicion and a chip on your shoulder, making friends is just not going to happen. No idea whom the Buddhists were calling the Black Lion, unless it's a reference to the Lion of Judah, and maybe that's time traveler's good guy. Whatever the case, tyranny is at our doorstep, and we should be looking for a comet coming between us and the sun, probably in the next 2 months. Comet K2 Pan-STARRS, the one Stephanie was talking about, was in Libra when it dipped beneath the ecliptic in late August. Something to know about that, Libra was seen by many of the ancients as the womb and legs of Virgo, part of a super constellation like Orion wearing the horns of Taurus or Seth the ears of Lepus. So you can find stones showing the ancients expected Heron's descent in a sign of the goddess and his rise across Pavo, Phoenix, Lepus, Monoceros, and Orion. In mid-December, he passed closest to the sun and again headed back out, but he won't cross the ecliptic again until early 2025. As to the question, would we recognize the peacock angel, Sab, Seth, Shatil, Melek Taos, or Skanda Murugan, if we flew right by him? I imagine that would be a question of his brightness at the time. I just found it interesting that if you look right now at what's going on, you might get very excited if you were Yazidi, Mendian, or Hindu. And all of us should be asking how it is that these northern peoples revered an obscure object in the deep south like it was their pole star or their cornerstone rejected. As to whether we will go through the comet's debris field, I can't find any news stories that say so. To me, NASA's orbit view gets very interesting between April and June. I asked Dr. Tony Phillips at spaceweather.com, so we might get a confirmation or denial. But then again, he could just pull the plug on the orbit viewer. Here's the beginning of the age of Taurus, and you've seen it before. What I changed was Sirius and Betelgeuse per the suggestion. But note that Mars crossing the line was the marker for the new age at the quarter precession. And remember, we counted off 6 zodiac hours from there to figure out when the crisis might return in our time. So here's Mars returning to the cusp of Taurus Gemini, fulfilling and then hanging up his role as Bull of Heaven. I'm really curious to see if this spring takes us off the hook for apocalypse, because then we might be golden for another 60 or 120 years before the signs return. What bothers me is that, Bible scholars are very excited right now, and astronomers like Augusto Argentina or the late Bob Harrington were saying that the time is now. Also, did you notice at the center of the universe is a constellation called Columba, the dove? See Genesis 8 and Psalm 55. Ursa Minor, a constellation the Maya might illustrate as a mastodon named Chalk, the Chumash Indians of Southern California called Hutash. Instead of making her out to be a heron or thunderbird, they made her a porpoise. And if you were a Game of Thrones fan, she was the three-eyed raven. The three eyes are Orion's belt at the north. Hutash was their goddess of earth and the rainbow, but they knew she would be thrown down to the equator or the deep south about the time the sun is reborn. And it's a subject of artwork inside the cave. Notice that the cave looks north, but it is expected to again face Virgo the diamond, in which case the pole star would be Vega exactly as it is at the Serpent Mound in Ohio. The Taino stone I've placed beneath the cave opening has the stars of creation showing up in Aquarius. But when she turns her back to reveal her husband, we are overwhelmed in light. Time of the Phoenix, Exodus 33:20. This piece is called the Adina Low Tablet. It's a little piece of sandstone 5 by 3 inches discovered by a 12-year-old on a hill 64 years ago in Parkersburg, West Virginia. It was discovered by Edward Lowe, hence the name, and is currently involved in a lawsuit with the Ohio Historical Society. But let's not talk about museums not wanting to return what they've had on loan. In Spain of late, the government is simply confiscating artifacts on the assumption they're all national patrimony. Welcome to the new world. The interesting thing about the Adina piece is the hidden images that explain this time we're about to go through. There's Osiris Orion wearing Jupiter's horns of Aries, Zeus-Ammon sitting fat, dumb, and happy with Seth the Raven either flying overhead or up his butt. And he's about to be devoured by a hidden lion. I wish I could read the writing. Seen another way, the lion's got a goddess he's about to give the business, ready to blow him 2 kisses in the form of super flares. And if you look way down at the bottom left corner, you can see where Orion's symbols of the crook and dragon's teeth are also the boobs of the goddess. Zodiacally, you can't separate God from his goddess. As much as Moses pretended she didn't exist, his wife was his beloved bird, Zipporah, and he played the bull or lion. It was a play, just like, the story of Jesus and John the Baptist is a play. It's like an hourglass, and she owns the Northeast and he owns the Southwest, and then they switch, something like that. But I've seriously digressed. Originally, we were talking about David Gemmel's prophecies. So here are some ideas from Wolf and Shadow if you're interested. And he's got another 20 or so novels to contemplate. Page 7, Earth again topples and the oceans swell. Page 18, 1 Samuel 17:35, Goliath seems an allusion to the celestial villain now to be vanquished. Page 21, evil will revisit this place with cannibalism, slavery, and murder. Page 28, the time of Antichrist on earth ensues soon after one called the Christ has appeared. Page 60, much of Europe will be under ice. Page 61, with organization, people can survive. Page 65, the problem with signs and prophets is that people don't believe them. Page 68, religion will be turned on its head, just as it was when Jerusalem fell to the Romans. Page 106, the hellborn are religious zealots out to kill anyone not like them. Page 139, the coming great war is identical to Joshua's fight with the people of Ai. Page 143, despite the nice words of Genesis 9, a flood will return. Page 241, there are portals to other worlds, some even darker than this one. Page 264, some will again attempt to bring back human wisdom from before the fall. Page 269, the Orion king meets the goddess wearing a silver star at his shoulder. Beetlejuice? Page 282, the evil of this world emanated from the ones left to guard it. Page 318, finally, he describes our world before the fall. For every blessing there was a curse, for every joy 10 sorrows. 9/10 of the world went short of food, and everywhere there were wars, plagues, famine, and starvation. It was finished before the fall, but it was taking a long time to die. Anyway, David Gemmell, great author, see echoes of the great song, emphasis on the tales of the Anaho. I guess what I'm saying is there might be another 500 years to play around, and there might be less than 3 months left to get yourself right and prepare your family for chaos. Because this year, the signs and the stars are lining up, and I can't tell you in which month the ancients expected all to go crazy, but Orion, our anchor, is flying over the first of Aries, which has finally arrived to the cusp of Pisces Aquarius. And there's something very suspicious in the deep south that was supposed to be a harbinger. And Betelgeuse has been alternately dimming and brightening for a while now, getting ready to blow. I guess the big question is how long from a solar micronova does it take for Earth's magnetic field to polarize? And how elastic is the connection between the core and the mantle? The Bible thought the world would topple in 3 days. Egypt said the goddess took 12 days to get Osiris reassembled, and we shall see. Let's see if I have some more video clips from friends, but the thing to know about the stones is that your ancestors carved, drew, and molded what they saw. They didn't spend weeks working a stone to make it look pretty or paint caves to reflect upon the local flora and fauna. If you see a wall spit painted in ochre of mutilated hands, you should ask yourself what terrible event is taking place. If you see Pegasus right side up and upside down, you might want to think about reversal. If you see a bull getting it on with a lioness and a bat as the thing conceived, you might wonder what was going on in the sky and how that impacted the earth. I know it's all complicated, but I'm damn sure it was important to figure out, or they would not have left it for us. Shema bless you and keep you, now and forever. Take care.